What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Raw Podcast. I'm your girl, Michelle Maxwell, and it's always such a pleasure to be here with you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've been following along, then you know from my last episode that I recently just wrapped up 3 rounds of egg retrieval. So I wanted to pop on here and just chat with you guys a little bit about my experience, my personal experience. Everyone has different reasons why they go about egg retrieval or choose egg retrieval. And they have different experiences. So I just wanted to give you guys a little insight on mine. I do think this is very important to speak about. I will say, having gone through this process prior to going through it, I did not have a lot of knowledge or insight on it. I also understand that we tend to lead into things that we're personally going through, but still, I think overall, it's just as women, it's good to have a little bit of an understanding of what the process consists of. Um, I will say that I never thought I would do egg retrieval. It's not something I ever thought about. Maybe coming up in my years, it wasn't as common as it is now, but I just never thought. I am naturally very nurturing. I am naturally a caretaker and motherly that I just thought, God's going to give me a baby when God wants to give me a baby. I was in a what? I was in a relationship for 13 and a half years during my prime baby making years with someone who had a vasectomy. So that has a lot to do with the reason why I never had a baby. And so for me, it's very biological. It's pretty much my biological clock's ticking in the sense of like my ability to have an egg reserve and have eggs to produce babies. So I will say after my breakup from that relationship in my late 30s is when I started to think about it. And I thought about it for a really long time until I did it. I probably thought about it for like 5 years until I actually did it. So it was a process. And for multiple reasons. It is very taxing on a woman emotionally, physically, it's very financially taxing. So, it can take its toll. So it's worth contemplating and thinking about. Um, at the time, I was going just to my normal annual checkups with my OBGYN. And obviously, with age, at least mine speaks about these things and what my options are. And my OBGYN was actually very encouraging. She was always like, women have babies in their 40s all the time. It's not a big deal. Um, but let's take your AMH levels. Let's understand your levels. And that way we have an understanding. So, just for you all who are not aware, AMH levels is pretty much the blood test that they do to be able to test the number of eggs a woman has or her ovarian reserve. And all women are born with a certain amount of eggs. I'm sure that differs depending on each woman. And as we mature, those eggs diminish and our ovarian reserve decreases and the quality of eggs decrease. So that all happens simultaneously. That being said, when she took my numbers in my late 30s, they were pretty, I feel like they were somewhat above average for my age or very average. Just they were very steady. So the ideal number for AMH is between 1 and 4, 4 being the most ideal. So um, you know, never really felt the pressure at that point to retrieve or do my egg retrieval or anything in my late 30s. I was still caring for my mom. Then COVID hit. Obviously, no one was doing any of that. So it was kind of like after COVID, kind of started to come to an end, I guess. Um, that I started thinking about it again, and my mom had passed away. So I started thinking about it again. And I went to a clinic. So at this point, I hadn't had my AMH levels checked in a while. I decided to go to a clinic, went to a clinic, they do your blood work, they check your AMH levels. Your AMH levels is pretty much like what your medicine protocol is gonna, how they're gonna determine your medicine protocol. And the medicine protocol is what determines pretty much how much it's gonna cost. So I went to this clinic, they took my levels, they were still good at the time. It was like 1.1. And this point, I was 42, maybe late 41, early 42. So again, didn't feel the pressure, took my time with this clinic to at this point, it was more financial for me. So just trying to, weigh the financial um, situation. And when I finally was like, okay, I'm going to do it, I asked them to send me a final updated financial statement. And when they did, I never caught it before, but there was this asterisk at the bottom, and it said, will not be able to utilize eggs for 2 years from the date of freezing. So I, inquired about it. I was like, am I misreading this? Or they're like, no, on this program, you're not allowed to use your eggs or defrost them for like 2 years from the date of that they're frozen, retrieved and frozen. So I was going to do multiple rounds. So number one, that would stagger my ability to use my eggs. And or secondly, thirdly, and fourthly. Secondly, they're my eggs. They belong to my body. They're mine. Thirdly, I'm paying for these eggs to get retrieved. Fourthly, no one's telling me I can't use the eggs that are mine and I paid for to get retrieved when I want to use them. Plus, I was 43 at the 42, 43. And I'm like, what? I'm going to be like, what if I want to be before 45? So, yes. Long story short, ended up changing clinics. And one of my coworkers suggested the clinic that she was at, went over there. And let me say this, ladies and men, whoever happens to be listening, when it comes to most things in life, but definitely anything medical, anything you're paying for, anything that's invasive in your body, I recommend that I'm going to say shop around, but definitely seek out the best person for you, the best doctor for you, the best clinic for you. Because this is personal and you have to be your own advocate and you're allowed to. You have, I don't know, it was permission, but my permission to be your own advocate and to find a doctor or clinic, a situation that works for you. You deserve that and you have that right. So I was super glad that I switched clinics. My doctor was so thorough. She just went through all the details with me in a way that I hadn't experienced prior. And so then she took my AMH levels. So mind you, I hadn't had my AMH levels tested since like the previous clinic, which was over a year. And when she took my levels, they dropped significantly. So they went from like 1.1 to like, or one, maybe, yeah, 1.14 to like point 0.6. And so, I started to feel the urgency. She also disclosed to me, and this was December 2023, the doctor at the new clinic disclosed to me that that clinic will not freeze eggs after the age of 44. They will only do embryos. So I wasn't getting embryos done. I just wanted to retrieve my eggs and freeze them. But if I was over 44, the only way that they would do the process is if I had a sperm donor and I made an embryo. So December 2023, April 2024, I'm going to be 44. So I was a little bit of a time crunch here. So I decided to do it. I was going to take January to just like cleanse my body and prep my body because it was at the end of December that I was thinking this, come back from New Year's, whatever, and ideally wanted to do 3 rounds. But at the time, my monthly was ending at the end of the month. So based off of my cycle, which is what my entire procedure or protocol revolves around, I was only going to be able to do February and March. Well, as I always mention, through everything, I pray to God and ask for his guidance. God and Mother Nature, God, he was Mother Nature. My cycle went from being at the end of the month, which meant I wouldn't have been able to do the retrieval in April, to the beginning of month. So now, February, March, and now April, I had the opportunity to do 3 rounds, complete 3 rounds prior to my 44th birthday. So I did it. And and I will say the actual process, I mean, there's times leading up to it and obviously coming off of it, but the actual process takes anywhere from like for me 10 to 12 days. The doctors, once your monthly starts, is pretty much when you start your shots. They have your medicines pre-ordered, you have everything ready to go. Some women select the option to have a nurse that costs more money. I decided to administer my shots on my own. My mother was diabetic, so I had some experience with shots, like with needles. I'm not like afraid of needles. I do well with needles. So I decided to do it myself. It is definitely one of the most nerve-wracking parts, especially when on your first round, because you want to make sure you do everything accurately because it's very expensive and you just don't want to mess stuff up. So that was very nerve-wracking. That part was challenging for me, but I did it. Um, the As you go through your protocol for your meds leading up to the day of retrieval, you have regular doctor's appointments. In those doctor's appointments, they do an ultrasound of your uterus and they check your estrogen. They're very quick, efficient, and amazing. Those appointments. But when they do the ultrasound of your uterus, what they're looking for is that you have ovaries. On your ovaries, you have follicles. Your eggs live inside those follicles. So they measure your uterus lining and they measure the size of those follicles. Ideally, I think they want the follicles to be between 15 and like 21 or something like that. But unfortunately, not every follicle grows at the same time. So certain follicles are going to produce more eggs. Some follicles are going to be very lazy and produce no eggs. So they base when you do your actual retrieval off of maximizing how many eggs your follicles are going to produce. So how many eggs your follicles? Yes. So that being said, I got 5 eggs frozen my first round. The actual retrieval process was seamless for me. I'm not sure that's how it is for everybody, but for me, it was like it was as beautiful as it could have gone. It was the day of, you go in, they put you under local anesthesia. I slept like a baby. It felt great. And that entire day, I was ordered not to do anything. And for me, that's rare because I'm never not doing anything. So it forced me to be lazy. It was a nice lazy day. And I healed up really fast and didn't have any complications, any difficulties, any pain, nothing. So that was really beautiful for me. So 5 eggs the first round, the second round I got 6 eggs, and the third round I got 5 eggs. I will say my second, as I went down, as I continued down the path of retrievals, the third one was definitely the hardest. So they got harder for me, not physically, but mentally and emotionally. You have to alter your life. Your life gets put on hold in a lot of ways. You can't exercise. For me, exercise it's like a huge outlet. I couldn't exercise. It's also my body is my job, so um, my measurements and my physical state is very important for my job. So there's a lot of pressure there. Um, Mentally just having to make sure that you're off point, that you're home within certain hours to take medicines. Some medicines need to be refrigerator. So that like revolving your entire schedule around that and then having to give yourself shots is not fun either. So those things did take a toll on me a little bit. I was ready to complete the third round when I did. I don't know how common it is for women to do three. I think 3 rounds is actually really common. And I don't from a little bit of research I did, not sure like going beyond 3 rounds is beneficial. I don't know, not the doctor. But for me, 3 rounds was my max and I did it and I got a total of 16 eggs. I will say on my last round, maybe because I was so just exhausted from the process, but also because I strive for excellence and I always want to be like a top achiever. I wanted more eggs. So 5, 6, 5. So I was a little disappointed when I heard that um, they were only able to freeze 5. Now my body produced more eggs each round. They just didn't mature to the point where they were able to be frozen. So that those were my numbers. I don't say that with any disrespect. I'm very grateful for my 16 eggs. I am very grateful for the opportunity. I now have a 21 at my age, a 21% chance of having a baby just naturally at my age, it's like 1%. So, from my understanding, for what my doctor told me. So, I am super grateful. Um, and yeah, I just one of my friends asked me at the beginning of this process, Michelle, how does going through this make you feel? And I told her it made me feel empowered. This process gave me options. And I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have a baby. I'm not even sure I want to have a baby. I don't know. That's a whole another episode. I need to contemplate life and the world and all these other things, factors. But it gave me the option that no one could take from me. And no disrespect to the men out there because I love men, but I've spent a lot of my life with men I've given a lot of my life to men. And um, I wanted to give myself something that it's my choice. I'm the one that bears the child. I'm the one that does the most. So I feel like it was very empowering for me to have this option. And we will see what comes up of it. That's God's plan. I'm just here navigating the best I can. But yeah, I hope that gives you guys a little insight and a little, if you've never thought about it and you're thinking about it, it it piques your curiosity to, figure out what works best for you. I hope for the women that are going through it, you got this. You are powerful. I know it's not easy. And the women that don't want babies, already have babies naturally, whatever, just gives you some insight on, just how strong us women are even more. We all know we're all living it in our own right, but I think it also just uh it's good to know. It's good to know what other women are going through. It gives us empathy and grace. And whoever's going through this, I guess my biggest piece of advice is give yourself grace. Give yourself grace because it is challenging, and and you deserve that grace. So I hope you guys have a great week. I hope that yeah, this shined a little light on some of the stuff that we go through, and I will see you next week.